Her remarkable career spans various impactful roles, including being the founder and the CEO of an award-winning Bhubesikazi Investment Holdings, as well as being a life-changing transformational coach, a speaker, an author, and an entrepreneur. She has led small to medium-sized teams to success in multiple industries and have gained deep expertise in leadership, mediation, conflict prevention, and entrepreneurship. Her passion for women empowerment, high-performing teams, and purpose-driven leadership is inspiring. Her name is Nonto Sibisi. Today, we will be diving into a few key themes with this remarkable woman, including but not limited to leadership, youth development, and purpose, and how this shape our work and the future of South Africa. It's a very good morning. Welcome to Ubuntu Radio Nonto, and I thank you for making time to speak to us today.
What an honor and a privilege to be here. Hello to your listeners, and it's an exciting experience to be in your space and ready to transform and change lives.
We are excited to have you in studio. So you have an extensive background in leadership, particularly in high-performing coaching and organizational development. With over 12 years experience, how would you define the essence of leadership in today's world, particularly when leading diverse teams in different industries?
That is a mouthful of a question. So I'll have to break it down into smaller segments to make sure that I cover a big chunk of a very important question. But in essence, I believe that, effective leadership is underpinned one primary truth. What is the leader's purpose? Why do you wake up to do what you do as a leader? Why are your intentions? And the second point is it's so imperatively important for every leader to be relatable, to be engageable, for your teams to be able to share with you concepts and ideas. Because remember, even though you are leading this team, they are to know more than you about the latest trends. So if you are a leader, to being excellent, it requires for you to be relatable, for you to gather content from your people in terms of how to shape your approach to becoming effective in terms of how you lead them. And most importantly, I strongly believe you have to be value-based driven. What are your values? How do you guide your principles of making decisions? What inspires you? What governs your approach in terms of how you make a decision that has an impact in terms of your organization and your team overall? And lastly, you've got to be passionate.
Wow.
What are you passionate about? What drives you every day? And I believe those are the essentials that define leadership to me and that sets a leader apart.
Your work has involved leading and mentoring teams to execute successful projects across various sectors. Could you share some of the key leadership qualities that you believe are essential for a leader to foster a high-performing team and drive excellence?
High-performing teams are a collection of highly innovative individuals. And as a leader, you have to have a portal within yourself that is open to being teachable. That's the first departure point. Innovation can have 2 points. When it's not received well, it might seem like disruption. And as a leader, if you don't have a portal of being teachable, you might resist these high performers and take their new ideas and concepts as null and void. So that's one aspect. You need to be respectful, to give room for people to share their views, to share their perspective, because you are guided by your values. You understand who you are. Therefore, you are not threatened. You create an enabling environment to allow for the team that works with you to become liberated in giving the best and the fullness of who they are, by giving them permission to be as innovative as they want to be. Most importantly, be a good listener. Listening is a highly overlooked quality that many leaders, as you climb the hierarchy of leading people, you start to think that everything is on you. Yet leadership is not about you. It's a disposition. It's not a position. When you are able to utilize your people to maximize in their potential, they help you drive towards the objective of what it is that you desire to achieve. So those are the 3 fundamental qualities that I strongly believe are there. But one of the other very important factors that we are dealing with now, and many leaders are faced with, is the cross-generational type of employees that are coming. We've got the old generation and the young generation. And what I've found to have worked is that the older generation host a lot of experience and expertise. But the younger generation, they come with innovation, relevance, they are more bold. And when you are able to link these two up, you can get a transformative landscape of concepts and ideas that can move your leadership role if you give these people the space to impart to each other, pairing the older generation with the younger generation, where even in that, there's a transferal of skills that happen and transferal of innovation that occurs.
I like that transferring of skills, a very key, important issue there. As someone who has worked in the business environment, development, strategy formulation, and organizational change management, you have been at the forefront of some complex challenges. How do you approach leadership when navigating periods of organizational change or conflict?
You know, that question is a deep scarred question, because before we can talk about a conflict that a leader is faced with, many a times we approach it from a surface angle. But by the gift of the program and the processes that we offer through our associate Leadership Management International, we have understood that the depth of any approach to being able to dissect a matter requires for you to analyze the internal dialogues of who you are dealing with. How do we do this? Each individual comes from different background, right? Their perspective and their view, what you showcase to me now is not who you really are. And very often when we approach spaces of conflict, we want to deal with it at a scoop level. But through conversational engagement, we are often able to discover the undertone issues that may have led to that potential conflict. So how I often handle this is, with teams, we have a process that we utilize that is done through an anonymously responded to questionnaire online that comes out with color-coded responses looking at conflict, vulnerability, commitment, looking at conflict as a whole. But the triangle looks at issues of vulnerability, the team's level of vulnerability, commitment, accountability, and trust. These factors have been proven through research that was done by Patrick Lencioni, that many teams are unable to transition fairly and peacefully into change because their inability to being vulnerable, being committed, right, and being willing to account to each other. So leaders struggle with that, to accept and embrace that an organization often goes through two phases: expansion for growth, or holding back because the leader is probably not yet resourced enough to approve for that growth and expansion to happen. But the teams can get very uncomfortable when situations of that nature happen. So when we do this online assessment, we are able to then understand where are the key areas that needs to be looked at. And then we build a conversational setup where we then unpack to understand where could the underlying issues be within the team. Is it trust? Does the team not trust each other? That they are not ready to grow? Do they have healthy conflict? Because healthy conflict is a setup where an individual's perspective, I'm not opposing you as an individual. I have a different perspective in terms of your proposed concept. I'm not opposing you. And many people often take heat and defense, and that's where most conflicts happen. Because in corporate environments and high-performing spaces, people often think you are opposing me as a person.
Yeah.
Yet the context of the conversation is about the topic
at hand. Yeah.
So I feel that many leaders need to be made to understand that it's the need for the organization to grow that often hinders, and it's hindered by the lack of healthy conflict within your daily meetings, your monthly meetings. So if teams are always saying yes, 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 how will you know when you are doing the right thing or the wrong thing as a leader?
Interesting. Women in leadership are often underrepresented, but you have broken the boundaries as an entrepreneur and a leader. How do you think South African women, particularly young women, can break through the barriers and take on more leadership roles in business and the society?
I love your question, Thelma, because I like personalizing this aspect of the interview, because when I look at my journey, it has truly been the grace of God. It has become the centerpiece of my growth and the breaking of the so-called barriers has been through serving. You know, I always emphasize the power of young people lifting up their hands and saying, I'm available to volunteer.
Availability.
Lift up that hand. Have a grit. Have a desire, a hunger inside of you to say, I might not know this now, but I want to walk with that woman. So my journey began when I was seeking the Lord, and the Lord was very clear to me. I will put you in leadership. But I was like, how will this happen? How will this occur? And when we acquired, in 2015, when we acquired the Leadership Management International license to distribute these programs in South Africa, one of the key factors that stood out for me from their solution was that it dealt with the internal dialogues, the subconscious mind, the perception that I had of myself as Nonto. And through going this process, I realized that there were many preconditionings that had subjected my potential to oppression in my own self. So many women first have to overcome the hurdle of self-sabotage.
I hear you.
Self-sabotage begins when you cannot see yourself able, before the help can come. And it was in that period that I was summoned to serving other women. And in serving other women, I realized where my fears almost crippled me when I thought they would not embrace me because of my own limitations. I assumed those same limitations were on the other women. That's the second point. Get rid of the self-imposed limitation. It's sabotage, self-imposed limitation. And thirdly, internal dialogues. What are you saying to yourself that you think the world is saying to you? That's just the mindset. So the architect of a woman's mind requires deep interrogation and introspection from self before it can move into the state of environment. I always say that there's a 3-in-1 you. There's the pretender, the wannabe, and the real you.
Oh, okay.
There's the body, who is the pretender. There is the soul, and there's the spirit. The soul is where the pictures of the windows of communication, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your taste buds, that's where the information comes through TV, radio, magazines. The soul gets the imprintments of all these wannabes. But the real you is the spirit you. The one you that no one knows just before you switch off that light.
Oh, yeah.
And that is where the power of the transformative change of a woman can occur, and even a man, is in interrogating, how do I shift from looking outward in to looking inward out? And when you shift from that angle to moving from mindset to body, soul, spirit, to then acquiring the skill set of the world and chiseling it, aligning to the real you, your natural talents, your gift, serving as you move along this transition, you will be amazed how transformed you will be. And as I go back to my journey, that's how I journeyed through this, is that in the interim of me discovering Nonto, the traumas that I had gone through, the pain, the rejection that I had experienced from childhood, it had a contributing factor in terms of how I evolved into embracing who God had transformed me into being. It's the word.
Interesting. You know, amazingly enough, is that we're having this conversation on a day where we are remembering and commemorating a great leader in the world, Nelson Mandela. This month and on this day, we are commemorating Nelson Mandela. Would you like to speak to some of the leadership qualities that you personally have identified in Nelson Mandela?
One of the most powerful one was compassion. Compassion has no borders of race or color. Compassion speaks and yields in love. Compassion calls one to character formation. Your Mr. Nelson Mandela, our former president, had a depth of compassion where he was able to understand that hunger, poverty, shame, it doesn't know no gender. It doesn't know no color. And I believe that for me and the work that I do, that is one component that I'm always having to face and answer to, is this decision. Does it derive from an angle of having exercised compassion? Whether this decision you're about to make, is it compassionate to the recipient of the choice that you're about to make? Not just about me, but to the person who is going to get. And I believe that the grander the grander impact that he made in the world on our behalf as South Africa was purely from a heart that felt compassion, that if it was me in their shoes, how would I have wanted to have been received? And that for me is such a ground setter for any form of leadership, to depend and be driven by your heart of compassion. Put yourself in the shoes of the recipient and ask yourself, would I still do it in the way that I'm doing it?
Profound. One thing that I picked up from our conversation is that you had issues as a child. You had traumas that were very limiting to your development to become a leader. I want us now to speak to the youth who are aspiring to become something in future. You have worked very close with youth in your coaching and mentoring roles. As a transformational coach, what do you believe are the greatest challenges facing young South Africans today, particularly in terms of career growth and leadership development?
Oh, thank you for this question. It's Youth Month every month in South Africa. Looking at the stats of unemployment rates in our country, it's staggering. And it requires for us to really introspect and reflect. But my departure point comes from your angle of how you've laid this question from my own personal traumas. And I believe that as a healed individual who's experienced a trauma on gender-based violence, where I was raped at 13, I had a mind block for 10 years. In the 10 years, I was living a life that was not mine. And as a spiritual being, I've learned to understand that any intercourse of that nature transfers things. And I was living almost a duplicate life of the culprit who had done what he had done. And what happened in that 10 years is that the life I lived was a life that was borrowed, because I was in denial of the reality that I was living. I bring it back to the young people that we live with today. Many young people are living in a perception and a view of living life for someone else, not for themselves. And I think that's where the key change happened in my life. When I turned 23, I took ownership. I owned my life. I realized that for as long as I want to drag this trauma, this pain, nothing in my life will change.
Exactly.
I was like an elephant who had a chain that was tied to a tree. I thought the tree was stronger than my strength pulling away from this tree. But for 10 years, that was the perception I had. Until I decided, let me pull my foot away from this tree.
Only to find that
this tree was nowhere near the strength I had. All I had to do was pull twice and I was gone. Nothing of mine was taken. My gifts, my talents, my purpose was still inside of me. And I had a full landscape of the world to impact and impart an image of who I had chosen to be known as. Not to be defined by the past, not to be defined by the trauma, but to set a tone of what it is that I want to do. And that is my message to young people. In order for change to happen to you, you must first own your life.
Own your life.
Nobody owes you anything.
Yes.
And in the ownership of your life, you must embrace that you are enough as you are. Your gifts, your talents, your voice, the things that you are able to do that no one else in this world can do like you do. Even your smile is a gift. Stop underestimating yourself. Appreciate and value you. Love yourself enough to say no. And I believe the transition then begins there when you form a character that distinguishes you from the rest. How do you do that, you ask me? From embracing your own life, taking ownership, from deciding that I'm unique, I'm enough, my gifts and my talents are mine. Character is then formed by setting a vision for your life. What is the one thing that you want to do in your life? When I met my coach at that time, I said, I want to speak to people. And they said, what do you want to say? I said, I have a story. What is your story, young person? What is your story? Because your story is unique to the next person. And therefore, do not underestimate the size of humble beginnings. Humble beginnings is where great things begin. I mean, the greatest brands in the world started in the backyard, in garages. And so the question comes back, Who are you when no one's watching?
Mm.
Where are you going? What do you want out of life?
Hmm.
When you are able to answer those three questions in the silent chambers of your truth, you should come out with an answer. And these answers will help you form the character of how you are now meant to live your life, because they become boundaries. Every time you step outside of who you said you are not being accountable to yourself.
Mm.
Accountability is a responsibility that many people run away from.
Mm.
And that's why many are ungovernable.
Yeah.
Because you can't account to yourself first.
Wow. With your extensive background in mentoring and coaching, you have seen the power of personal development in young people. What do you think is the most important thing young people need to develop in order for them to be successful leaders? And is it skills-based training, emotional intelligence, or something else?
Skills-based is critical.
Mm.
However, as I am a coach, a transformational coach in corporate, we have found that many are skilled in corporate and many are employed, but they have not understood the essence of spiritual and personal development. Spiritual intelligence is a high, and emotional intelligence, those are frequencies of relation with others. If you cannot relate with other people, you cannot exist anywhere in the world.
Mm.
Hlonipha umuntu. That is the first departure point. When you are able to respect yourself, you can respect others. There is a saying in Zulu that says, umuntu nomuntu, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, akekho umuntu oyisiqiwe, which means that a person is a person because of others. There's no person who is like a nature reserve. You need other people. So as a young person, it's so critical that you develop an ability to being so inclined to learning how to interact with other people. Many young people today don't know how to interact. Basic human relations. How do you talk to people? When you walk into a room, how do you engage people you don't know? Basic etiquette of human existence. Ubuntu. Ubuntu is defined in many ways today, but unaboin when Ubuntu, do you have that sense of acknowledging that someone is in my presence? They need to be acknowledged, respected, seen. How do you demonstrate that? So as you build these personal development qualities in your own capacity, by the time you acquire a skill set, it complements that skill set. When you move into a work environment or when you start a business, you are able to exude these from the smallest contract that you get to the biggest. I mean, the smallest crowd, hence I said I could speak. The smallest crowd I ever spoke to was in a church with 4 people. But God said to me, speak like you in an auditorium with 1,000.
Yes.
And the passion I would pour out into the preparation of that engagement. One of my friends once said, Nonto, when you speak to us, it's like there's so many of us in a room. We can feel your words. And I said, it's because what I give to you is what I give to myself first. And so young people, young person, wherever you are, polish your talent, polish your gift in a way that when you serve others, you yourself can still eat and enjoy that which you've served the world. So personal development, emotional and spiritual intelligence is critical. You've got to have a power that you respect. I pray. Meditation is key. Meditation is key because it becomes a compass that manages or helps you manage your emotions. Emotions can get out of hand. And if you don't have a God who you account to, you can just go out in the world and live as and when you feel.
Serve people what you can eat too. I got that. In your experience, how can we encourage more young people to embrace entrepreneurship, particularly in this challenging economic climate? And what steps can they take to develop resilience and become more proactive leaders in the communities?
Your questions are so layered. And they are so beautifully asked. Entrepreneurship is an opportunity for people to discover who they are. There are 2 different types of entrepreneurs. There's an entrepreneur who has a product that they have developed, which is innovation. And there's an entrepreneur who offers a service. These 2 entrepreneurs are completely different individuals because, yes, as much as these 2 solutions require you, but the product one is at the back end and the service one is in the front end because you are the actual product. So developing yourself to becoming an entrepreneur it requires a level of boldness and belief in yourself.
Mm.
And when you look at South Africa's landscape around entrepreneurship, we must still invest more in terms of how we make the environment enabled for our entrepreneurs to bud out.
Mm.
So you need to have a mindset of making a solution. If you don't have a desire to serve people, entrepreneurship is not your place.
Given your work in mentoring and coaching, what is the one success story of a young person who has experienced a transformation in their career and personal life thanks to your guidance?
Oh, I've got so many young people. But I think the one that I would speak about today is one that probably many people can check out, who was developing a channel for F1. They have a passion for car racing and car tracking. I think I worked with them for 6 months. At that time when I met them, they were driving a vision that had nothing to do with their passion.
Yeah.
So as they were explaining this vision to me, I could see the blankness on their face. And I said, I can hear what you are in love with, and I respect where you are. What are you really, 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 really wanting to wake up and do every day?
Purpose.
They said sport. And I said, I wouldn't have thought you do sport. What sort of sport is this? They said, car racing, but it's such an expensive sport. And I said, but who said it's expensive? What is it that you want to do in that industry? So they narrated their vision, and I said, I think we should park the other aspect of your career. I will still see you in terms of where you can deliver on your deliverables, but I would like to focus with you on this one. The way their face lit up was unbelievable. I said, give me 6 months with you on this one. You would tell me if it was worth your while. As we speak today, Motozar is a channel that is available for South Africans. I don't know if you've heard about it, F1. They are doing phenomenally well. And right now, even South Africa is looking at how we can bring
F1 to South Africa.
And they've been part and parcel of these discussions, the engagement that I've been saying, hey, what if you do this strategically? What if you partner with that person? And their willingness has gotten them into a landscape that they never imagined they could be. There were habits and behaviors that we had to deal with, because remember, as the atmospheres of your growth happen and transform, there are certain things you cannot take with you. And therefore, there was a change in terms of, I'm sure they'll laugh when they hear this, of their habits and behaviors, their level of commitment, the time, the entire scheduling of their life had to transform until they came back one day and said, I think I'm ready to fully commit to this passion. And I said, let it go. Let's see what God is going to do. And today they are doing phenomenally well. And not just that one, there's another one, Lerato Kwabe. She has been passionate about leaders. And we've walked a journey, I think it's almost 4 years. And Lerato will pour out her heart and tell me, Nonto, this is what I see, this. And I said, okay, I'm going to this conference. This is what I'm going to be doing. If you can come, it would be great. I'll recommend reads. Read up, check this channel out, look at this woman, identify your inspirational woman or male in that industry, and let's zoom into them. What are they doing? Where are they showing up? And how can we link you to that space? And obviously her own interest led her in different parts. Right now, as we speak, I had an opportunity at the BMF Black Management Forum, which is another structure that I have played an incredible role with a number of many young people, young professionals, to help them in their career and their passions, to help them discover who they are and partner with them in unleashing this potential. And she started her own channel now, called Banking on African Leaders, where she's spending time even in the G20 recording some of these phenomenal leaders and their tracks of the work that they've done. So those are just 2 young people that I can literally throw, and I know that they will be happy because of the traction that they need around the phenomenal work that they're doing. So yeah, that's just 2 of many youngsters that God has blessed me with.
Nonto, your last answer spoke to purpose. I want us to delve into this topic in details. You are such a passionate advocate for helping individuals discover and live their God-given purpose. How would you define purpose, and why do you believe it is so crucial for people, especially leaders, to identify their purpose early on their journey?
Purpose is such a mysterious gift that we all have. When we arrive on this earth, each one of us had our hands folded. And in those hands, I always say, were gifts that no one can take away. Do you remember even when you tried to slit a hand in the little
Yes.
they would be like, leave my hands alone. I have my gift. And I believe each one of us were tested, approved, and dispatched with a solution that no one else in this world has. But the mystery of purpose for me, Thelma, always is underlined by the fact that as you do what you are naturally talented and gifted in, and you commit your passion and your time in that, the mystery is that only God in his creation and his power knows when you are in the time zone and the time period and spotlight of what you were created for. So purpose is not something that I can wake up and say, Nonto, I'm in my purpose right now, I'm doing my purpose. No. It's for who created me to be here, to know that Nonto is now in the element of why I created her. It could be 2 words that will come out of my mouth, but it's a truth that I will pour out into the world. How that truth will be poured out, the vessels of us discovering that purpose, is underpinned in your talents and your gift. So it's in discovering those 2 secrets. What are my natural gifts and talents? What are the things that I do so effortlessly, even if they woke me up at 3 a.m. and said, Nonto, do this, I wouldn't even ask, where's the invoice? Because the passion is so proactive, it's so alive. I don't need to rehearse, I don't need to prepare. It's who I am in my most relaxed state of mind. That is where the journey begins. And I think, yes,
you can.
And I think that many people in the world have deprived themselves of the privilege of spending quality time with themselves, to ask themselves questions like, what do you like? Very often in sessions, when I'd ask an individual, if you were to thank someone today, who would you thank? They would give you a whole list and exclude themselves. And only when you make them aware that, are you aware you haven't thanked yourself? Is when the light bulb goes out that I've excluded myself from goodness. I've excluded myself from the things that make life matter. And that is where many people lose the discourse of purpose and aligning themselves to it. It's in your everyday. But what is it that you do that is effortless, that makes purpose so meaningful?
Your work as a life-changing speaker and author focuses heavily on purpose and women leadership. What do you see as the first step for someone who is struggling to find their purpose? Is it an internal discovery process, or are there any external tools or frameworks that can help guide them?
There are external tools and guiding solutions that can assist an individual. But often it becomes a waste if the work has not been done inside. Many people go out and explore expensive getaways and saying, I want to find myself out there and not inside. The secret begins internally, Thelma. It's in the conversations that are not had. Many people are wounded. You cannot hide and bury the trauma, the rejection, the pain you experienced as a child. In leadership, we have had to deal with a lot of young girls and young boys in grown-up bodies. I was fortunate to serve in early childhood development board years ago called Cotlands. And in that board, we had a number of researchers that would share information on findings on the impact of how early childhood development has an impact in terms of the grown-up individual you become. And some of the findings state that a child is fully developed by the time they reach the age of 7. And you sit and you're marveling. And the logic of a grown-up is fully developed by the age of 30. And you sit there and you think, but how? When I expect my 13-year-old, my 14-year-old to, have sense in their life. Even myself, before you reach 30, you're thinking, I can use my logic, effectively. But only to find that the most work that must be done is in those early phases of your life. And many people who want to then develop and find their purpose think that it's only found later on in life, but it's groomed in the first phases of an individual's growth. I hope I've answered you.
I think you have, because I've heard people saying, I started singing at the age of
Oh,
3,
three.
4, and you're like, but how?
And what
So
happened to that? What
exactly.
happened? And our society needs to move away from the concept of thinking, listen, I love education. Education makes the world, it chisels the gift and the talents to discipline
Mm,
and professionalism.
mm,
However, in our society, we have isolated the creative ability of a human being,
mm,
the natural flow. My mom works with children who are slow learners and autistic, and children with not disability but mentally slow
special
learning,
needs.
special needs
Yeah.
children.
Mm,
And she's so passionate about it. The last time they were having Olympics, they were champion swimmers. She said to me, we trained this one 2 weeks ago and they won the swimming gala.
mm.
And I was like, but how is that possible? And Mama said, they're naturally gifted.
Yes.
These special needs children have an ability to perform in their nature
Yeah.
without being trained by someone to call it a profession. I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So many of us have lost the hand of having someone notice. And it's unfortunate because we live in a society that drives the concept of feeding our stomach and ignoring the purpose and the nature of what a child can do. And in many of the other cultures, and I don't want to use race and color, in the other culture, when a child can sing, the mother would invest all money
into
the singing. Maybe we need to also reconstruct that, especially a girl child. Many women leaders then struggle to come out into leadership roles because from the early childhood development phase into their teenage roles, they are trained to become women that manage households. By the time you've acquired a professional skill set, you are a doctor, a professor, you cannot find yourself coming out of that shell of being a household manager because your conditioning says you should be doing this at this time, there and there. And that's why that breaking of that barrier of women getting into leadership roles takes so long because they are fighting what their mothers have taught them and what they now believe is their truth. It's the separation that is required.
You also help people to focus on performance enhancement and growth. How does aligning with one's purpose lead to greater productivity and fulfillment in both personal and professional life?
Professional life exists because there's a personal hunger. When you inspire people to share what their personal reason of waking up every day, I've coined this line of saying, we do not wake up for money. We wake up to utilize money to pay for experiences that we long to encounter. And I say this because people wake up and go to work, their professional capacity, because they want to travel the world. They want to take their children to best schools. They want to buy that shoe. They want to buy that car. But without them realizing that the depth of me working in my personal capacity, in my professional environment, in the fullness of who I am, I can fulfill and I can experience this.
Purpose-driven leadership can often be a game changer in terms of achieving long-term success. In your experience, how can organizations foster a culture where everyone or every employee feels connected to the greater purpose of the organization?
Oh, that's going to take a long time, and it requires a very special leader to actually want to help individuals. It's about creating enabling environments. You cannot teach a leader to live in purpose. You cannot force a leader to create an enabling environment that is purpose driven and purpose inspired if they've not known and seen the fruits of that in their own life. So it requires the leader to have lived a life fully engaged, fully plugged into their purpose for them to see the importance of giving this or extending a hand of creating an environment for their teams to do that. However, for organizations that desire to do that, invest in coaches, invest in transformational coaches who can sit down with your teams. I have corporate clients who I've worked with for many years where they would call me and I'll have one-on-one sessions to understand where are you now in life? What are the things that are important? Because we evolve as people. Our dreams evolve. But very often organizations think the person that was employed 5 years ago when they walked through these organizational doors still the same person 5 years later.
No.
That this person is now coming because, oh, I have to tick the box. Oh, I have to do this. But when you constantly have reflections, and I'm not talking about getaways, because getaways, it's been proven several times that you do getaway conferences with your team building sessions, but the one-on-one interaction with an individual asking you, how are you? 1 out of 19 sessions I've had are good tears for 15 minutes.
Ish.
I can't believe that someone is asking me that question in the workplace. Nonto, I'm not okay. Why are you not okay? What is happening at home? Before I can tell you what's happening at home, I just want you to know that I'm a firstborn at home. No one ever asks me if I'm all right. And I actually don't know how to even answer you, because this question did not even exist in me. I'm here at work today, but I'm absent. And they'll start listing why they're absent from work. So why did you come to work? I came to tick the box that I'm present.
Yeah. But
So
productivity is not there.
And the leadership doesn't know this. They have expectations, they have demands, of which is understandable. We want the economy to grow. You know, we want our businesses to thrive. But invest in coaches that can sit down with your people. Let the people debrief. Let the people check into their workplace. Let the people enjoy what they do and they pour into your organization. And above that, create safe social environments. You know, some of the conversational training session, which is team bondings that we often host. In the team bonding sessions, one of the exercises we do is, can you write down 3 things that you are really good at? And then in the other 2 pieces of paper, write down 2 things that you are not good at. And then in that safe space that we've created for a conversation, we then challenge you to go and give the 3 to your team member and also the 2 to a team member that you believe needs to improve. That sparks conversation. Those purpose-driven, intentional spaces of debriefing your employees on a monthly basis, on a 2-month basis, enables the team cohesion to be strengthened, vulnerability and trust to rise, and commitment to their daily duties to go on an even higher level. Because as people are able to pour out whatever might be hurting, making them feel disgruntled, not seen, not heard in the work environment, can be taken out in these intervals of debriefing conversations. And as you build up, we also introduce Friday socials, where teams can go out and have hangouts outside of work. Let's get to know you outside of the work environment. And obviously these are for bigger businesses, but even smaller businesses, you can go to a park, a bring and share park. You know, let's go to a park, let's have a picnic on Friday afternoon. You bring what you have, I'll bring what I have. After work, we go and spend an hour there. Let me get to know you better outside of the work environment. These social hangouts of employees enable them to see each other as people over and above just seeing themselves as people who are chasing deadlines. So those are some of the strategies on how leaders can begin to transform their landscape, creating more enabling environment of purpose-driven employees who thrive to make sure that the business is set. Because when the business is set, our pockets are full. Then we can hang out more with people and do the things that make us happy.
I want us to move to speak about conflict prevention and mediation. Your expertise in mediation and conflict prevention has been tested in diverse sectors. Can you speak about the importance of conflict resolution in leadership and how effective conflict management can be a tool for growth rather than a division?
It can definitely be a tool for growth. And I like to use an example of a family in this instance when we talk about conflict. In a household, in a marriage, a couple that loves each other, when the one disagree with the other, there's silence in the house. The silence has no expiry date. I see a smile there. There's no expiry date for this silence. Why is there no expiry date for this silence? So we're basically saying we are making room for ourselves to feel the way that we both know we feel, but we are afraid of being vulnerable. I'm going back to the 5 dysfunctions of being vulnerable, of showing a level of commitment to this very important aspect, which is the relationship that we both need. Our level of trusting the fact that if I open up you will make a mockery of my feelings. Or who do you think you are? I'm not going to do this. I talk about these 5 dysfunctions: commitment, trust, vulnerability, and accountability, and inactive to results, because in the work environment, I've had to utilize these dysfunctions as examples of why much of the conflict never happens. Earlier on, I mentioned that there's something I call healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. Unhealthy conflict is when you attack me as a person and not the subject at hand. That's unhealthy conflict. In an environment where we are seeking productivity. So as a leader, it helps incredibly for you to be able to have peace building, some form of training, introductory training, to ensure that you understand that we are here because of productivity. Therefore, these 2 individuals cannot allow their personal perspectives to then bamboozle the main objective, which is productivity. And how you help them understand this is, what is the issue at hand? Yours is to ensure that the issue at hand keeps being flagged clearly. We are here to be productive. So how you feel about her, how they make you feel, or how they choose not to make you feel, does it have an impact in terms of what we are here for? And if it does, how does it have that impact? And I'll give you a practical example. Very often, one of our clients, they make whiskeys, very well-known big brand. And we've been working with them since 2016, can you believe it? And we've evolved their relationship around their teams, and we've rotated amongst different teams. Very often when we are called in these sessions, we find that the biggest challenge that people have is that I felt unseen. The person make me feel as if I'm not there.
I don't exist.
Therefore, my view doesn't hold weight. And that's where great conflict occurs in the work environment. So as a leader, discerning and spiritual and emotional intelligence is so important, because when such conflict, it's a silent conflict. It's not there, but it's there. You need to be able to identify it, because it has a huge impact on the production line. And we've had to come in and have conversations with the teams to understand, create cold room, a circle that goes cold for a good 5 minutes to say what actually happened. And in some cases you find, well, to another person it might seem like it's something very small. We had an activation of a new product. They sponsored 5 garments. And in these 5 garments, I was new. I had just been onboarded in the team. All the other people received these garments. I did not. I felt excluded. I felt victimized. I felt not seen. I did not understand, and no one has ever cared to ask how that made me feel. They just informed me that we only have 5, and you are not the one who's going to get the one.
Aish.
That's another type of conflict. So what has happened is, although I'm trained through the Diplomatic Academy for peace building and mediation, I've had to take the training and use it on a practical every day to diagnose conflicts that involve individuals, the tone of voice, the body language, the expression, the choice of words. And I've had to learn to help individuals understand, the person may have spoken in this way. What was going on in your life? What was going on in your life? And when we meet on that human level, we realize that I actually overlook the fact that they have a life outside of this email. Even though this person, I didn't backtrack. I've been waiting for your email the whole day, Thelma. Where's your email? Thelma has just come back from court. There was a matter that was happening personally. You have just asked for an email. You are not delivering on the level that you know you should. I don't even know why you were placed here.
And it happens a lot. We hardly care about the space that the next person is in. We don't care about what they've been through, what's going on in their life. We just want things our own way.
Remember what I said about compassion in a leader when you asked me about Nelson? I said it's so important that as you granulate your approach to your decision, do your best to ensure that the decision first you go into the other person's shoes before you utter it. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's a developed ability over time. It's what Christ did. However, as individuals who desire to see progress and performance, we need to learn to get out of ourselves and get into the other person for us to extract what it is that we need from them. So I believe leaders need to make a conscious decision to invest in that aspect of themselves. Be absent, but be present. Be intentional. Trust your people enough to have the uncomfortable yet safe conversations with them that make them feel seen and heard.
Let's flip the script. What are some of the common challenges that leaders face when dealing with conflict with their teams or organizations, and how can they approach these challenges with a solution-orientated mindset?
First challenge that many leaders face is the pressure of investors. Investors want bottom line to grow. We are pumping resources in this business. You have just asked us to upscale, increase employment, the operational line. We've just increased more people, but the output is not the same. That's one pressure. Two, the other pressure that leaders are commonly facing is the constantly changing world that we live in. The unpredictable world of business, where they have to make decisions, sometimes that seem unfavorable for the people on the ground, but they have to make it because the world at large is not in favor for them. And then your question is, how must they handle this, right?
Yeah, and like how can they approach these challenges with a solution-orientated mindset?
Every situation is unique to itself. It's always dependent on what organization it is. What are the resources that are available to that organization? What is the leader's decision and authority voice in making choices on behalf of the organization? Because some leaders are there, but they don't have power to make choices. So everything is relative in terms of the circumstance that whatever position that leader might be in. There are many organizations that are not being run by the people who are actually in front. And in Africa, as we speak about our landscape, many of our countries are being run by investors and donors. Our leaders don't have a choice to make to get themselves out of certain preferences of the investors because they need them to get their people to a certain level. So one of the other very big governing aspect that I strongly believe in are values. What do you value? The investors may have pressure on you because of a number, but they never have pressure on you in terms of how you choose to treat people.
Yes.
It's treatment. The treatment of a human being is the one thing, no matter how much pressure a leader may be facing, the manner in how you treat people sets a tone. It sets a tone how the people will react to the communication you've given, and also how much they will be willing to pour into your demand at that particular time, or your request rather. So that is one aspect that I would urge leaders to invest themselves into, is how do you treat and engage people? Wow. People are everything, Thelma. Resources can be gathered, fundings can be found, but people, you can get people to do things you've never imagined and they have never imagined they could do when you make them feel that they are someone.
We're nearing the end of the conversation, but before we do that, there's just one topic that I wouldn't let you go without discussing: women empowerment and peace building. You have been an advocate for women empowerment, and you have played an active role in platforms such as the South African Women's Peace Table Talk. And I want you to tell us, what role do you see women playing in the peace building and leadership in South Africa, and how can they create, or how can we create more opportunities for women to lead in these spaces?
It was an honor to be part and parcel of that, and my journey in the peace table has been with DERCO since 2016. Hey, I believe that the biggest overlooked aspect for women's role is in everyday living. When I talk about everyday living, I'm an individual who looks at our society from a moral decaying angle. There's a role that only a woman can play when it comes to how you strengthen the morals of the everyday living of the people, starting with your children. So I believe that women can play an incredibly great role in how we contribute with the partnership of our husbands and our partners in how we raise our boys and our girls. Teaching them the fundamentals of seeing each other, and I'm talking specifically to gender-based violence right now because it's at its peak in our country, at how we raise our boys and girls to see each other. For the longest time, we have conditioned our girls to see themselves as helpmates to the male, which traditionally works to a degree, and obviously biblically because of what God had defined. But there are words and intentional conditionings that begin to birth the entitlement mindset in men to feel that they can violate women. Walk with me. We have made young girls and men to feel that they must see each other from the sexual orientation, not from a human angle. And that's the first departure point. The education at home is that a girl and a boy are people first for their male and female. Honor them in their full capacity as human beings, what they stand for and what they represent, before you can start seeing them as a potential attraction to you as a male or a female. Because that's where our biggest issues around gender-based violence have spiraled in the world, is that many men feel entitled to a woman's body, and they feel they have the right to treat them in a specific way because they've been given traditionally the right to perceive and think that they've got more of an upper hand that they ought to have. 2, women must be involved. They must be involved in negotiation tables. When delegations are sent out to negotiate for peace and combating wars in war-conflicted countries, women need to be there to be the voices and the mouthpiece of the women and children on the ground. War has been spoken over and over the years, and research have found that war has more impact on the woman and the child because they are the most vulnerable in society. Therefore, that's another landscape that I really strongly believe. Policy is critical because policy shapes and is an instrumental factor that influences what then spirals into the ground. So women need to be given power to making the decision, not just be faces that support policies that are made by men on behalf of women. So those are the 3 aspects that I strongly believe.
So as a leader committed to empowering women, particularly young women, what are some of the actionable steps that can be taken to ensure that more women are empowered to take leadership roles, both in business and in society?
You mean by us as a society, as a country, as a people? What other steps can be taken?
Yeah.
Create an enabling environment. Give permission for women to be great. Allow women to speak without them being stopped, without the notion of their perspective being grounded to limiting views of how and why a woman should speak in a certain way. Let her tone be expressed freely, not be subjected to the notion that she's emotionally imbalanced. Every time a woman raises her voice, it's perceived as if her emotions are not balanced. Yet when a man raises his voice in the notion of emphasis, it's seen as emphasis and urgency, not as emotional imbalance. So I really would encourage, 1, the state in how we raise our young girls. We need to give room for young girls to know that they are great from a tender age. And also our boys. Our boys need to know that women have room to be great. 2, we need to exercise and create more room. You can't sit in a chamber full of men and not ask yourself, where's the fragrance of a woman in this room? We need our men to be more open and more willing to give permission for women to take up leadership seats and lead. I'm happy to see many countries take up more women as presidents. And I believe that in a couple of years will be the norm of how we live, not just in Africa, but across the globe. Because leadership, again, is not a position, but a disposition. It's in the quality of the choices that the quality of life can be lived. And it has nothing to do with the sexual orientation, but everything to do with the character and distinct choices of a leader who's able to make efficient and effective choices governed by strong values and discipline.
As we look into the future, let's say for the next 5 to 10 years, what would be your vision for South African youth and women in leadership? And what changes do you hope to see in the opportunities, the impact, and the influence that they will make?
As I spoke about women occupying more leadership positions, I would love to see an institution that is designed and crafted intentionally to develop women leaders to take up positions in government, and even in private sector, a full-blown institution specializing in developing women. I believe that when we become more intentional around that and be bold as women and as leaders generally to say, we are giving you permission, we are going to chisel away our own fears as men to say, this is what a defined or definition of a strong and solid woman leader should look like. Let the curriculum of that institution stand for that, so that we can be able to point to ourselves that we have created a crop of young women and young boys who can lead in a society with a balance in understanding that we are people first and not influenced by our sexual orientation. Secondly, I love the Agenda 2063 picture that is painted by Letters to My Friend in 2063, a letter written by former chairwoman Umamu Nkosazana Zuma,
Yes.
where it paints a picture of an Africa that is living large, that is living in the fullness of who Africa really is, with endless and limitless possibilities, where we can travel the continent in a space of a month, and our women and children are in the seats that they deserve to be in. And our young people, that's what the letter says, are spearheading, are driving the innovation, the disruption, the introduction of new concepts and ideas, and implementing them into the grassroots and the grounds of Africa. There can never be another greater vision that I can have above that. That letter shifted my entire paradigm when I read it in terms of what was possible for Africa. And I chose this seat that I'm sitting in saying, I want to encapsulate and help in the formation of the leaders that will be leading in that space.
And finally, Nonto, for anyone who might be listening to us or watching us on YouTube right now, I want them to feel inspired by your work. What advice would you offer them if they want to make a difference in their community and their own personal life? How can they begin their journey towards discovering their purpose and stepping up to leadership?
You are enough. You are enough. I start by saying that because those are words that I had to echo to myself every day, to the point of me being able to stand up. I need you, wherever you are, whatever situation you may be going through, to know that inside of you there lives an ability that no man can define. An ability that will make you unstoppable even when the world and the tides of this nature forces you to stop. Your ability to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, not in what others tell you about you, but in what you know you can do. You are unstoppable. Believe and define what your mark will be in this world. Don't question yourself. Motivate yourself. And when you do question yourself to make yourself better based on what you had just done. Thirdly, do something. In your community right now, you might be living in a rural area. Listen, agriculture is there. You might be living in an area where there are swamps and wetlands. You never know what you can do. You can recycle there. What can you find? All I'm saying is think outside of the limitation. You are what the world is waiting for. Paint a color wherever you may be. Believe in yourself. You are unstoppable. And the change that you are looking for will not come and find you. It will begin when you take the step forward. So shift your mindset. Nobody owes you anything. No one is coming for you. you need to turn around and look at yourself in the mirror. Say, I can, I am able, and I'm more than enough.
Wow, wow, wow. Let me thank you for making time to speak to us today, sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your insights. Your work and dedication, Nonto, is really, really inspiring. And we wish you all the best in your continued journey of leadership, transformation, and women empowerment. I thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again. And we look forward to seeing you continuously making a positive impact in individuals and communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my sister. Such an honor to be here today.
You are welcome.